Joe, good to see how you doing. Evening, how you been? Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Michael, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles. Michael, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening. Good day, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? Evening, mate. Pure, good to see you. Evening. How you doing? How you doing today? I'm doing great. How you doing, Michael? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Tall, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, let's go through intro, what we're going to be talking about tonight's live, disclaimer, and by that time everyone's tuned in essentially for the last episode of the CMF, not technically either, because I'm going to be coming back on June 15th to continue over the CMF live. I'm going on essentially a vacation for 2 weeks, and I'll be back after that to continue CMF Live. But for now, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles, and I essentially host this live that you're watching Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. London time onwards. Obviously, tonight is going to be on Thursday, the last episode, until June 15th. This is episode 318 of the CMF Live. As always, where I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much everything you need to know about the world completely transforming into this digital space. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do live Q&As in this live as well, which means if you do have any questions or statements to make, put them down in the comment section. More than happy to help you on any questions you may have. And even though I am going on vacation, I also said, everybody can still message me, call me whenever they have any sort of questions and so on. So I'm always open for that. Now, on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about the US courts in terms of the Trump tariff policies. We're also going to go through news regarding the US government essential crypto holdings. Some data has come out. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the bullish outlooks for altcoin ETFs and especially for Litecoin ETFs. We're also going to go through news on tonight's live regarding the matters of Sol. Apparently, Sol has decided to ditch the idea of, filling their wallets up with Bitcoin, but instead to fill them up with something else. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live another speech that was made at the Bitcoin conference by PayPal CEO. We're going to go through news on tonight's live regarding a particular country which we talked about on this live about a few times at best, but they're doing something interesting, which is why I'm going to be sharing that news with you on this live. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding a massive bank that's decided to enter the crypto space. We're also going to go through the news on tonight's live regarding the US SEC asking for an outside perspective on a few things. We're also going to talk about tonight's live regarding Ondo Finance that's going to be tokenizing US stocks and ETFs around the clock on DeFi Access. And we're also going to talk about tonight's live regarding US lawmakers introducing one particular law that we've always wanted inside the crypto space, alongside obviously the stablecoin bill and everything else that's been passed as well. And we're also going to talk about tonight's live, as always, RLUSD news, Ripple news in other words. We're going to go through some other Ripple news on tonight's live as well, some banking news from Deutsche Bank, and so on. Some partnership announcements we're going to go through on tonight's live, some roadmap, essentially perspective news, data news as usual. But before we go through any of those news topics, and the first one we are going to be going through on tonight's live is regarding the US courts, which has staggered the crypto market space just slightly. It's not moving as much. It's only because there's one particular news, but shouldn't last. The effects of this news shouldn't last more than 24, 36, 48 hours. Monday, we should be back to normal, in other words. But before we go through this news, let's go to the comment section first and then go straight into that news. So let's see where we're at. We were at here. Mike, all great. Let's go. Manny, evening. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Have a great, well-deserved break. Thank you so much, Pierre, for that. Yo, what's up, bro? Funky brother. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles, and on CMF. JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Professor Miles and the rest of the family. Let's go, funky brother. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Adi says, hi, Miles. Hope you have a great time away. You deserve a good break for all the hard effort you put in for us, for all of us. And I would like to thank you personally. Adi, thank you so much for the kind words. Honestly, it means a lot. Thanks so much for the kind words. And also, thank you so much to everybody from the CMF that has liked this live, retweeted this live, and put a comment outside the live as well. And also, thanks so much to everyone who's watching on YouTube has also liked the live as well. Now, first news on tonight's live regarding US courts overturning Trump's tariff policies. So one particular activist, essentially judge, has decided to rival against Donald Trump and try to ban his tariffs on China, Canada, Mexico, and some other essentially countries as well. It's almost like this judge doesn't support US in general. A decision by the US Court of International Trade that came out today invalidated essentially many tariffs imposed by Donald Trump under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. The ruling removes tariffs affecting global trade, bolstering essentially market confidence as stakeholders anticipate shifts in US trade policies. The US Court of International Trade delivered a major ruling by striking down several tariffs imposed by Trump, citing overreach under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. Key tariffs affected includes those on China, Canada, and Mexico. The court's decision halted the collection of these tariffs, creating a significant realignment in international trade dynamics. Immediate effects are felt by businesses relying on imports from China, Mexico, and Canada. The courts, interestingly enough, basically said we were right, just use different rules and laws. So nothing has to really change here, said essentially on an interview on Bloomberg. President Donald Trump's recent sweeping of tariffs was suspended by the federal courts earlier, essentially today. However, later that day, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, even though an activist judge did come forward and said Trump is not allowed to tariff China, Mexico, Canada, and all these countries in any sort of a way to essentially get the money that these countries own back to the US, because that obviously doesn't matter to a US judge or an activist US judge. But however, later that day, the US Courts of Appeals temporarily halted the decision, paving the way for tariffs to be reimposed. So Trump's tariffs are back into action. So this judge did absolutely nothing instead of just wasting his time or her time. And US taxpaying money, as usual, is what essentially the liberal and democratic politicians tend to do, or activist judges. The Court of International Trade ruled that the customs duties declared by Trump under the emergency law were for almost the entire world had insufficient legal basis. The court halted the customs duties, stating that the White House could not create such a comprehensive trade policy within the framework of the law. The Trump administration quickly appealed the decision, and the Court of Appeals said it needed time to consider the appeals and ruled that the tariffs should remain in effect during this period. The White House economic advisor Kevin welcomed the decision, telling Fox Business that decisions by activist judges will not derail our trade policies. Trump's trade essentially advisor Peter said that if the tariffs cannot be maintained, they could be reimposed through other legal means. Tariffs are at the heart of Trump's foreign trade policy, with the administration aiming to bring major economic giants such as the European Union, China, India, and Japan to the table for new deals. So an activist judge tried to derail Trump's tariffs and tried to stop the tariffs on China, Canada, Mexico, and some few other countries. And then Trump's essentially administration obviously appealed it, which means it's reimposed. So tariffs are back on as a green light. Honestly, I don't even understand what is the point of an activist judge. A judge is supposed to be like Switzerland, neutral. Activist judges should not be judges in general, period, because it's supposed to be your neutral. A judge is supposed to be neutral and just goes by the law. An activist judge is no better than somebody who screams and shouts and holds a placard standing outside of a building or blocking cars and traffic. Now, 97% of the US government's crypto holdings are held in one particular token, and it is Bitcoin. It's not to brag anything about it whatsoever. It's just the amount of money that they've seized. so far. The US crypto reserves have been revalued to be 97% made up of Bitcoin, with Ethereum and stablecoins making up 3%. New data shows that Bitcoin makes up essentially overwhelming 97% of the United States newly centralized 20.9 cryptocurrency essential reserves. Ripple, Solana, and Cardano tokens that President essentially Trump included in his crypto reserve announcements were noticeably missing from the reserve, despite the earlier hype caused by the president's initial such pronouncements. Yes, that's true, but that's only because the crypto that they have is the crypto that's seized. Nobody essentially really, used XRP on the black market, but they did use essentially Bitcoin on the black market. Hence why essentially the US government has so much amount of Bitcoin. These numbers, provided by a blockchain analytics firm, Chainalysis, have given the public clarity as to what is inside essentially of the US government's vaults following Trump's executive order in March to formally essentially create a national crypto reserve strategy. Though the Trump administration has not gone public with the official numbers, the data reviewed by the Washington Post indicates that the lion's share of the United States seized and stored in crypto is in Bitcoin, nearly $20.4 billion of that total. This contraction on Bitcoin sharply contrasts with the expectations that Trump has raised from his earlier statements. In a post on essentially Truth Social Media back in March 2nd, the Trump president name-dropped XRP, Solana, and Cardano, causing the values of these coins to also spike. But these coins, essentially for the time being, according to the Washington Post, have not been seized by the Trump administration. President Trump's executive order created two new digital, essentially financial entities, the Street Bitcoin Reserve and the US Digital, essentially asset stockpile. The Bitcoin Reserve, essentially for the digital Fort Knox, meant to treat Bitcoin like digital gold, according to Trump, and the digital, essentially asset stockpile, on the other hand, is a mix of whether other cryptos the government happens to seize. So essentially it's unplanned and any crypto can be set up. Also, they can sell any crypto for the ones that they've chosen as well. Because the assets in both pools are primarily made up of cryptocurrencies confiscated in civil or criminal proceedings, the government's holdings essentially reflect the coins most commonly involved in illicit activities, not necessarily the coins with the highest reputation or value or strongest developer communities. Just to point that out as well, because even if there are Bitcoin maxis out there that essentially claim in any sort of a way that essentially, what America holds so far is only Bitcoin, and they're only going to continue holding Bitcoin. The only reason America holds, the US government holds a tremendous amount of Bitcoin is because Bitcoin was used for illicit activities. Hence why they seized it, and now they have it. As such, Bitcoin is overwhelmingly leading the reserve, followed by smaller assortments of including Ethereum, Tether, Chainlink, essentially Wrapped Bitcoin, BNB Coin, DAI, Uni, TRX, USDC, among others. Stablecoins and wrap tokens feature heavily in treasuries as well, while XRP and Cardano and Solana didn't essentially make it because they weren't used for illicit activities, but they're going to be purchased in some sort of way for that stockpile. Chainalysis suggests that the current reserve figure is likely underestimating the full scope of the government's essentially holdings, as the official audit and accounting process is still ongoing. These details have only been released by the essentially Washington Post, which tend to be quite liberal and hate Trump. So let's just see when the actual data comes out. But this is essentially what so far they're estimating as the $20.9 billion in estimate of cryptocurrency seized by the US government, by agencies like the IRS and or the FBI, essentially. Now, moving on from that to altcoin, essentially. Moving on essentially from that news to altcoins, altcoin ETFs especially. But before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or statements to make, put them down to the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. Sorry about this. Now, let's see where we're inside the comment section. Before we go through the next news, we were here. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles. How is it going, brother? It's going great. Cali, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Orphan says, have a good time on your vacation. I definitely will. Let's go. Evening, Miles and CMF. Semper, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Funky brother says, Miles, I need to cash out about 8,000 to 10,000 pounds on some of my portfolio. What would you suggest I should cash out on as markets are really down? I need advice. Contact me and I'll let you know. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free and forever. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Pierce. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. Hi. Wishing you a great day. Good to see you. How you doing? Now, bullish outcomes are coming for essentially altcoin ETFs. And especially essentially Litecoin ETFs, XRP ETFs, Cardano, HBAR ETFs, and Solana ETFs as well. But for this one, at the Litecoin Summit 2025 in Vegas, because there's a lot of crypto events happening right now in Vegas, the Bitcoin event, the XRP event, the Litecoin event, the Solana event, there's so many events happening right now. One of the most anticipated sessions focused on the future of Litecoin in the world of ETFs. The panel led by essentially James and the CFA and research analysis at Bloomberg Intelligence brought together some of the sharpest minds in crypto finance. Among them was Stephen, the CIO of Valkyrie Investments, a firm that made headlines for being the first to file for essentially a Litecoin ETF in the US. The overall mood essentially was optimistic with a heavy leaning towards optimism. Essentially, James kicked off the discussions with a clear message. Our view is that it's going to be approved. It's a matter of when, not if. He explained that Litecoin checks a lot of essential regulatory boxes thanks to his history and reliability. From his vantage point at Bloomberg, James said that the SEC is slowly warming up to more crypto ETFs from the altcoin section. Still, things are moving slower than in many essentially other industries alike. He also pointed to the internal delays at the agency, adding, "We talk about October being the timeline that we think a Litecoin ETF could get approved." But he left some room for essentially surprises. Slim chance that we could see essentially some of these single or essentially ETF coins actually getting approved at some point in July, though he made it clear that this isn't essentially his base case. The conversation essentially widened beyond Litecoin to the broader ETF space in general, where James mentioned the sheer volume of filings that are happening now are over 80 filings for different types of essentially crypto ETFs. And that the sheer volume of these filings, there's literally 2 times as more filings than we've ever had before for ETF filings right now. But despite all the noise, he remained bullish on Litecoin's forward path. He said, where do I think is the line? Is that it's not going to be stopping with Litecoin. He also brought up a notable comment from hashtags essentially Bruno, who called Litecoin the non-conventional part of this framework, highlighting his essentially comparatively of clean reputation among regulators and investors. James also wrapped his view with a confident prediction: Litecoin ETF matter of when, not if, and it's going to happen this year, adding essentially that this is very likely on its own standalone form. And then essentially came insights from Stephen, who has essentially been directly involved in ETF filing processes. Valkyrie also noted that the first was for people to file for Litecoin ETFs in the US, and essentially were 2 big reasons behind that move as well. He said the first one essentially is that Charlie getting involved in Litecoin Foundation again. I thought that was pretty significant, and it brings so much Litecoin community. And the second essentially was that Gary Gensler's speech, where he said Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin are not securities. The speech essentially said, give his team confidence earlier on. We are already received, I would say, just positive responses. I would also say that the regulators on Litecoin ETFs and essentially ETFs in general are going to be happening. And I 100% essentially approve this announcement from many CEOs. So at this Las Vegas blockchain event that's happening with the Bitcoin conference, the XRP conference, the Solana one, the Litecoin one, essentially Cardano one, there's so many blockchain events happening right now in Las Vegas. And there's a lot of CEOs, there's a lot of executive board members, CEOs from banks are there as well. And they're all making statements. Some of them are extremely bullish statements, and some of them are just statements. But the bullish ones regarding this one is that altcoin ETFs is going to be happening this year. And he said that it's not going to be stopping with Litecoin. It's just going to continue. We're going to have a tremendous amount of altcoins joining the ETF space. Now, in a time where a lot of essentially companies are buying Bitcoin and adding it to essentially their reserves, Solana has decided to ditch that idea. So, as MicroStrategy is buying Bitcoin, Metaplanet in Japan following their footsteps, and a few other companies around the world, they're all adding Bitcoin to their reserves. And it's like this trend. But Solana decided, no, we're going to add instead to our essentially, portfolio more Solana and ditch the whole idea of buying Bitcoin. Sol Strategies announced an additional purchase of Solana coins to strengthen its balance sheets. The Canadian company announced essentially today that it acquired an additional 26,478 Solana coins for about $4.7 million at an average price essentially at around 177 Canadian dollars. According to the announcement, Sol Strategy sold its remaining 3.21 bitcoins at an average price of about $103,000+, thus earning a total of $331,000. As a result, the company now holds a total of 420,355 Solana, currently worth more than $70 million. These transactions align with the company's focused strategy of concentrating its digital asset holdings in Solana to support its validator operations and long-term investment approach in the Solana ecosystem, the company noted. So this company sold its bitcoins. They're probably going to sell more bitcoins to buy Solana because they saw that altcoins would be a better essentially movement for their company. As a top-tier US-made project, Solana Network has significantly benefited from raising demands from institutional investors in addition to Solana strategies. The Solana Network has received significant boosts from other publicly traded companies led by essentially Javor Inc., which essentially purchased 80,000 plus Solana coins valued at $10.5 million last month. As time of this writing, Jonathan essentially holds 163,000 plus Solana coins worth about $27 million. The Solana network has received a significant boost from fund managers seeking to offer its spot Solana ETFs in the United States, led by Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, Van Eck, Bitwise, 21 Shares, Fidelity, and Canary Capital. Ironically, the exact same companies have also filed in for an XRP ETF and H4 ETF and Cardano ETF. But yes, in a time where essentially companies, banks, or essentially any small firms that are purchasing Bitcoin and adding it to their strategy, essentially adding it to their portfolios, this company decided to ditch Bitcoin and buy Solana instead. It's an interesting move from them. Now, PayPal CEO, former CEO, has decided to make a speech. Now, before we talk about the next news, actually, let's go start the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news. Good evening, CMF and Miles. Denise, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Longed ETH with a 40x leverage here. I hope I don't get cooked, bro. Well, let's go. Hi, Miles. Hope you're well. Yaba, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles and family? Hope all is well. Ray, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Happy Pisces. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Now, the former PayPal CEO makes an exciting prediction about Bitcoin. Former PayPal president and Lightspark CEO David made a striking statement about future of Bitcoin and the latest developments in the sector in the Squashbox program he attended on CNBC. Speaking after the Bitcoin 2025 conference, he said and he argued that digital assets have now become an important part of the mainstream financial system, which is very true. One of essentially David's comments was, most striking statements was, many major US banks are about to join the Bitcoin network, he said, who stated that institutions such as Nubank, one of the leading digital banks in Latin America, and Revolut, based in Europe, have already integrated the Bitcoin network with Lightspark infrastructure, announced that major US-based banks will soon take similar steps. We are currently essentially active in 70 countries, and users can convert any currency to another in real time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, he said. Yes, that's true, but how fast and how cheap is the main question. We know for a fact, obviously, Bitcoin is 24/7, even on the Lightning Network, but how fast and how cheap? Obviously, you forgot to mention that part. David also, who predicted the developments such as GameStop's inclusion of Bitcoin on its balance sheets would become widespread in the corporate world, and said, after companies such as MicroStrategy, which first adopted this strategy, dozens of new companies essentially are now moving forward on this path. David said that this diversity enables Bitcoin to be adopted more at an institutional level and creates a structure of distribute risk. On the program, David was also asked about President Donald Trump and his family's interest in cryptocurrencies. And he said, the president's family can buy stocks, hold bonds. Why can't they hold crypto assets? David asked. And he stated that regulations in this area should be within the framework of ethical principle. Digital assets are now a mainstream investment class, and more people, even politicians, families, are starting to acquire these assets, he said. It's true. You know, presidents or president's family members can buy stocks, they can buy bonds. Why can't they buy crypto? Why is the news so much against Donald Trump buying crypto? Now, moving on from what essentially David said, the former CEO of PayPal, regarding Bitcoin's Lightning Network, to a country we never talk about on this live. But today we're going to be talking, not that we never talk about, but it's a country that I've probably mentioned in this live, and now we're on episode 318 of the CMF Live, but I've probably mentioned this country about 2-3 times. And the only reason I'm mentioning it again now is that they're launching something interesting. They're launching an entire crypto city. And which country is this? It's Kazakhstan. It's a country that we barely mentioned. Kazakhstan to launch a crypto city pilot project. Kazakhstan announces a crypto city pilot zone permitting cryptocurrency use for goods and services. An entire city, a crypto city. Kasım, the president essentially of Kazakhstan, announced the launch of a new crypto city pilot zone aimed at integrating cryptocurrency use for goods and services starting May 29th, 2025. Today, a city, essentially a crypto city, has started today in Kazakhstan, where they're now accepting crypto for goods and services. That's step number one. But they started today. They didn't start, we're going to think about it and start in a few months or next year. They started today. A crypto city in Kazakhstan doing crypto payments. Essentially, the president declared the launch of the crypto city at an Astana International Forum, a pioneering project for cryptocurrencies and transactions. He said, we are planning to create a pioneering pilot zone called Crypto City, where cryptocurrencies might be used for purchasing goods, services, and even beyond, he said. He also said that the president of Kazakhstan, the Kazakhstani government is visiting this environment by leveraging high-tech capabilities and also focused essentially on fostering digital innovation. This initiative includes supporting blockchain research and exploring crypto legalization for daily transactions. Crypto city emergence signifies Kazakhstan's ambition to become a crypto-friendly nation. The project introduces a sandbox for crypto experimentation, potentially influencing global crypto policies, allowing cryptocurrency for purchases, and could increase crypto adoption and economic diversification. Just to also point out, CZ has been helping the Kazakhstani essentially government for the longest time as well, since he essentially got out of prison. The whole time he spent, the moment he came out, he's been spending a lot of time with the Kazakhstani government, and I'm guessing this is why they created this crypto city, for example. Industry leaders and governments and investors are anticipating the project's influence on this global cryptocurrency landscape. The president announcement has underscored essentially Kazakhstan's commitment to digital transformation. Despite the lack of immediate investment details, industry observers are watching closely right now. Kazakhstan's previous experiments with central bank digital currencies reduced tax refunds, processing times, showcasing the nation's proactive engagements with digital innovation framework. And even before the crypto city concept was announced, Kazakhstan's proactive approach towards cryptocurrency integrations through regulative frameworks, and this is the potential to essentially enhance investor confidence and serve essentially as a benchmark for other nations to look at Kazakhstan and say, well, maybe we can do that too, and creates our own crypto city, for example. Predictions regarding the market shifts will unfold as details develop. I mean, I'll be honest, the UK should learn from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is about to be creating a crypto city. The UK is still trying to decide what is a stablecoin. The difference of what countries are at is crazy. Some countries are at ridiculous stages for the crypto space, and some countries are still trying to figure out what is a crypto. But the ones that count are very heavily inside crypto, to be fairly honest. All the Middle Eastern countries and a lot of Asian countries and, America with Trump and so on, and Latin America, they're all pro-crypto, EU regulations, MICA. It's just the UK is just moving at a snail's pace. Now, Santander is what we're going to talk about next. A massive bank has decided to explore stablecoins and retail crypto services. Banco Santander SA plans to issue a stablecoin using its digital arm Open Bank, aligning with the EU's MICA essentially crypto regulations. The move targets the Eurozone and Latin American markets, addressing currency volatility and stablecoin integrations. Banco Santander SA, through its digital subsidiary Open Bank, intends to launch a stablecoin. This is a strict move to essentially enhance its retail crypto services under the EU MICA regulations. Open Bank will serve as the platform to introduce retail-facing crypto products. The stablecoin may be essentially pegged to euros or the US dollar, expanding access to regional market spaces. And the initiative impacts regional markets, notably in Latin America, and the Eurozone. The stablecoin usage and anticipate the raise, providing essentially a hedge against inflation and market volatility. Santander's stablecoin aims to facilitate financial stability. Immediate market reactions show cautious optimism aimed at regulatory compliance under the MICA. Community discussions express cautious optimism, suggesting that Santander's robust market presence could accelerate mainstream stablecoin adoption in banking. This move essentially mirrors JP Morgan's JPM coin launch, indicated essentially of similar strategies by large banks aiming to enterprise into solutions. European neobanks have also showed rapid growth inside the crypto sector as well. Revolut Bank has done incredible things inside the crypto space as well. Experts predict that strong alignments with the EU's regulatory frameworks anticipate increased crypto adoption across banking sectors based on these trends. So another bank that's just decided to enter the crypto space, get involved in essentially stablecoin regulations, create their own stablecoin, and also essentially offer a lot more retail crypto services. Santander Bank is huge in the European market space, absolutely massive. Now, this is also another indication of how close we are to this digital future that we're heading towards. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about tonight's live is regarding the US SEC. But before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. Shelly says, morning, Miles at CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Peg says, hi, Miles and CMF. So much bullish news. The switch is about to happen. Let's go, Peg. It's true. We're getting so much bullish news as we're going on further and further. We're getting closer to regulations, which essentially equals to utility. We're getting closer to some announcements, coming out from banks and institutions and governments and international bases as well, not just domestically, which is incredible, honestly. It's all these are indications of how close we are. Now, US SEC is looking for outside point of view for crypto rules. Hester Pierce made some also speeches at the Bitcoin conference as well. And basically, this is essentially what went down. At the Bitcoin 2025 conference held in Las Vegas, SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce shared her opinions on the state of crypto regulations in a lively fireside chat with Floyd's General Counsel, Haley Lennon. Haley opened the conversations by asking about the current enforcement focus on digital asset wallets. Pierce replied, some people have taken the fact that we haven't moved forward with a ton of these cases in action, but there is a lot to digest. Pierce said the SEC is not ignoring the digital asset space and is actively looking for new inputs. We're bringing in outside perspective, she said. That's really the way to get a good rules and regulations coming in. One part of the discussion centered at the confusion many inside the cryptocurrency space feel at current regulations. Pierce was direct about the problem. She said, what complaint I've had is that in an environment of regulatory uncertainty, it's much harder to identify bad actors and it gives them more room to operate. It's true. The longer the SEC takes to regulate the crypto market space, or the CFTC or the US government, the more illicit activity that will happen in that particular market space. But once it's regulated, it's difficult to commit illicit activities. She added that this unclear environment doesn't just let bad actors thrive, it also drives good actors away, also true. It pushes legitimate actors out of the US or out of the industry entirely. We need to create a good environment for the good actors and a bad one for the bad actors, she continued, drawing strong applause from the audience. Pierce also addressed her recent tweets about disclosures of rules for crypto projects that might be considered securities, but did not give further details during essentially the talk. When asked about the hype around meme coins and similar tokens, she gave a warning with a touch of humor. She said, if you're expected to buy a meme coin and become a billionaire, buyers be aware. Be an adult. If you want to speculate, go for it. But if something goes wrong, don't come complaining to the government. Essentially, they said, if you want to buy meme coins, go for it. You lose your money, don't come running to us. Because buying a meme coin is like buying lottery tickets. If your number hits, your number hits. If it doesn't, don't come crying about it. Buy meme coins. Pierce encouraged attendees to speak up about the important issues like financial freedom and government overreach. Governments works for the people, she said. Your voices are so important for helping us think through these issues. It's true, the government is supposed to work for the people. However, we live in a world where the government, well, we work for the government instead of the government working for us. She said Americans believe in the freedom to innovate, and that community essentially participation is key in shaping better rules. Pierce also said Bitcoin's role in mainstream finance cannot be ignored. We need to think about how it interacts with our regulatory frameworks, she said. But the key essentially is preserving people's ability to trust of value on their own terms. Closing her sessions, she left the crowd with a message. You don't have to wait for the government. Demand transparency. Learn from failures. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and do better next time. She's basically saying if you got, tripped up inside the crypto space and lost money, it happens. Don't run away from the space. Obviously, if you go for legitimate projects, you don't get essentially tumbled on. But if you do go for essentially unlegitimate projects, then obviously there's a very high chance of you losing your money inside the crypto space. Obviously, again, not financial advice. Now, we're going to be talking about Ondo Finance. Moving on from Hester Pierce's essentially speeches on the crypto space, I agree with her statements. The government should be working for the people, demand transparency, and we've been demanding it for the longest time regarding Tether for transparency, yet the EU failed to do that. They couldn't get Tether to become transparent. Hopefully the US government could get Tether to be transparent, and hopefully the US government could get Michael Saylor to be transparent as well, because that BS he gave on the live stage of if I reveal my wallet, I will get hacked. Everybody knows Satoshi's wallet. Is he hacked? No. So why would they hack Michael Saylor's wallet? Now, Ondo Finance is what we're going to talk about next. Ondo to tokenize US stocks and ETFs for around-the-clock DeFi access. Ondo Finance is reshaping the financial landscape by merging traditional stock markets with decentralized finance. The company's latest initiative, Ondo Global Markets, brings well-known equities from the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq onto the blockchain. This groundbreaking move enables investors to trade tokenized US stocks and ETFs around the clock without being bound by conventional market hours. This is incredible announcements. The first one to do this was Kraken Exchange, where Kraken Exchange offered 50 US stocks that are tokenized. But now we have Ondo Finance coming out and saying, Ondo Finance essentially holds a tremendous amount of IBIT, which essentially BlackRock's tokenization fund, essentially. They own quite a bit of it. And Ondo Finance now coming out and saying, we're connecting the New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq, and we're bringing it to the blockchain. We're making it a tokenized essentially asset, tokenizing stocks, making them go 24/7. This is incredibly bullish for the chain behind these tokenized stocks. Historically, stock trading has been restricted to specified schedules, leaving essentially weekends and after hours untapped. Ondo Global Markets changes that by offering 24/7 access to the stock market. 24/7 access to the stock market with Ondo Finance. Through this platform, the tokenized versions of popular equities such as tech giants and leading ETFs are available at any time. Each token is designed with a one-to-one backing to its underlying asset, ensuring transparency and trust while integrating essentially applications. This design allows developers and investors alike to engage in activities such as margin lending, staking, or setting up automated trading strategies. As a result, tokenized assets can now serve as collateral or be incorporated into essentially composite profiles or essentially a flexibility that traditional financial setups have long struggled to offer. The initiative is not merely about essentially pedro trading convenience, but it's about a strict effort to give access to essentially to US markets and tokenize them. By utilizing blockchain technology, Ondo Finance reduces conventional obstacles such as elevated fees and geographical essential restrictions. Investors from eligible global regions can now access familiar US securities using stablecoins, thereby bypassing the need for conventional essentially brokers. This possibility opens the door for more exclusive ecosystems where retail users and institutional players can interact on the same level. Furthermore, the comprehensive APIs provided by Ondo's Global markets will enable fintech platforms and asset essentially issuers to easily integrate essentially tokenized stocks, spurring innovation across the decentralized financial landscape. Ondo Finance's bold step represents a new era in financial freedom, where rigidity of the legacy systems gives way to a fluid, always on market. With this initiative, the emerging day-to-day assets and DeFi tooling could redefine how global investors manage risk, optimize liquidity, and harness growth opportunities. Just want to point out one thing. About a week back, what announcement did Ondo Finance give? If we go to a week back, just 1 week back, Ondo Finance came out with an announcement that they've essentially partnered with Ripple, XRP Ledger, for tokenization about a week or so back. You fast forward to today, Ondo Finance is talking about the stock market getting tokenized, going 24/7. Coincidence or coordinated? I'll be honest, in the past few days, we've had some brilliant announcements for XRP Ledger. Brilliant announcements for XRP Ledger. And there's some more to go for on tonight's live as well. Now, US lawmakers. There's a few laws we've been waiting for them to be essentially happening inside of the US. And, you know, the Genius Act for stablecoins, brilliant, needs to happen, needs to pass. The essentially stockpile they're creating, brilliant, needs to happen, needs to pass. The other one, where essentially who gets to dictate the regulations for the crypto space? SEC, CFTC, or senators? Well, US lawmakers introduce a baptism regulatory framework for digital assets. US Representative French Hill has announced the introduction of the much-awaited market structure bill. This is the big one for digital assets. The Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025, or Clarity Act of 2025, comes with support from lawmakers across both sides of the aisles, including 3 Democratic co-sponsors, and the rest just being Republican. The bill, because Democrats, you know, for some reason they hate the crypto space. It could be because some banks might be behind them, because banks want to stay where they are. They don't. Some banks don't like crypto because they want to stay, you know, the way they are. But those banks need to realize that the more people take out their money out of the banks, the less money the bank has to play with when they're trading with other people's money. If they don't join the crypto space, then they'll just go bust. We've had, you know, humongous companies over the years go bust. We've had banks go bust. It's just a natural thing that happens. And if they don't realize that, they're heading that direction as well. But you can see where Democrats stand, where Republicans stand. And Republicans are essentially being sponsored by crypto activists, while the other side, Democrats, are being paid off by some banks that still want to stick around. The bill covers the roles of both essentially the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, on essentially digital asset oversights, seeking to resolve long-lasting questions about the agencies oversee which types of digital assets. He said, I am proud to introduce the Clarity Act with my colleagues. Hill said essentially in a statement today. He said, our bill brings a long overdue clarity to the digital asset ecosystem. It prioritizes consumer protection and American essentially innovation, and builds off essentially our work in the 118th Congress. Under the Clarity Act, developers will be required to provide accurate and relative disclosures detailing a project's operation, ownership, and structure. The bill also introduces new compliance and requirements for customers-facing firms such as brokers and dealers, including clear disclosures to customers and segregation of customer assets from company funds, and mitigation of essentially conflicts of interest through strict essentially registrations, transparency, and operational standards. I don't think Michael Saylor is going to be too happy about that, because Michael Saylor wants to hide his portfolio. In addition, the Act establishes comprehensive registrations and regimes that would allow digital asset firms to legally serve customers in the US markets. The Clarity Act will deliver clear rules of the road that entrepreneurs, investors, and consumers deserve. And this is what we wanted. This is the regulation we wanted inside the crypto space. Yes, the stablecoin, the Genius Act, is brilliant. It will bring so much liquidity to the table, undeniably, over the years, and this year is on when it's passed. But this particular rule, the Clarity Act, is everything rolled up into one regulation for the crypto space. And this is what we needed. The Clarity Act will deliver clear rules of the road for entrepreneurs, investors, and essentially consumers. Representatives Richie Torres said in a statement, the bill emerged from the House Committees on Financial Services. The committee had previously worked on the FIT21 Act, which passed out of essentially the House of Representatives, but stalled in the Senate. Hearings for the market structure bill started initially in April with a subcommittee on digital assets and financial technology and artificial intelligence. Market structures and stablecoin bills have long been points of emphasis for Congress, which has sought to regulate the burgeoning cryptocurrency industry inside the United States. Representatives Ro Khan said essentially back in March that Congress should be able to get both a stablecoin bill and a market structure bill done this year. Both of these bills, Genius Bill and the all-in-one bill for the crypto space, this year. The stablecoin bill, known as the Genius Act, faces a full Senate vote after it passed essentially the vote earlier in May. The Trump administration has essentially pushed for passing the Genius Act, with the Treasury Secretary Scott Benson and crypto Caesar David Sachs both advocating for it publicly. The bill essentially initially lost key support in May from Democrats protesting against US President Donald Trump's crypto ties, but no one really cares. I'll be very honest. Nobody cares about, Elizabeth Warren and any of her groupies. Let's just be fair, fairly honest with ourselves. Nobody inside the crypto space cares about whatever Elizabeth Warren has to say. Nobody inside of any market space cares about what Elizabeth Warren has to say. Now, that might be harsh, but, they say the truth hurts. Now, on the whole Clarity Act, this is genuinely what we wanted for the crypto space. I mean, it's just wrapped up everything into one. Who gets to decide? The regulations, where essentially the senators, the SEC, the CFTC, they all have essentially a voice and get to share an opinion in that matter. And then the bill goes over essentially company funds, mitigation of conflicts, interest through strict restrictions, and transparency, operational standards, everything. And this is good because they're not rolling it into separate bills, where a bill for transparency, a bill for migration of assets, a bill for companies to show their proof of reserves. This is one bill from A to Z, everything. The Clarity Act of 2025. And apparently it should be passed alongside the Genius Act this year. Now, and it also shows you how close we are to the crypto space, to essentially how close we are to that digital space we're heading towards right now. For everybody that thought we're still so far off, we're actually getting closer to the finishing line, believe it or not. BitGet is what we're going to talk about next. BitGet lists Ripple's RLUSD, initiating the race for regulated stablecoins. RLUSD has just landed itself another exchange. This expansion of BitGet stablecoin listings shows that there is a growing essential demand for regulated, utility-focused digital assets, particularly from institutional players operating in increasingly compliance-driven markets. According to BitGet, RLUSD isn't just another dollar-pegged stablecoin. It's a regulated stablecoin built for enterprise-grade use cases. I've never seen a crypto exchange talk about a stablecoin the way that they are essentially talking about it with RLUSD. BitGet lists essentially DAI stablecoin, or essentially TUSD, USDT, USDC, and other essentially stablecoins onto their platform. But they've never made a tweet about it and saying words like they're saying about Ripple, where essentially it said, RLUSD isn't just another dollar-pegged stablecoin. It's a regulated stablecoin built for enterprise grade and use cases. They're really bigging it up because they should. RLUSD is better than the rest. Some people like hearing that, some people don't. Life is tough, get used to it. Issued by Ripple, RLUSD is pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar and backed by segregated essentially reserves of USD fiat and cash equivalents. What sets it apart essentially is the native issuance on both the XRP ledger and Ethereum, leveraging the interoperability and network strengths of the two major blockchains. RLUSD stands as one of the few stablecoins issued by the essentially New York Department Chartered Limited Purposes Trust Company, placing it in a uniquely clear regulatory framework, said essentially the CEO of BitGet. It is true, Ripple did get essentially that green light from New York. This clarity is a key for institutions prioritizing transparency and risk management. BitGet is basically saying, watch out, essentially USDT or USDC. RLUSD has that green light for transparency for institutions to feel confident holding essentially RLUSD compared to YouTube. The clarity is a key for institutions prioritizing transparency and risk management, making RLUSD that strong fit within BitGet's broader vision to expand secure, compliant trading operations. BitGet said essentially in its 2025 roadmap to scale institutional offerings and deepen integration. The RLUSD listing is a tactical step in the direction providing institutional and retail users with access to a stablecoin backed by clear compliance credentials. They mentioned RLUSD, Ripple stablecoin, in their roadmap. BitGet Exchange mentioned RLUSD in their roadmap. I've never seen them mention USDT or USDC or any of the stablecoin in their roadmap as a crypto exchange, but they did for RLUSD. They also said, we're excited to partner with Ripple, a team that has consistently pushed forward to adoption of crypto, said Chen. This listing essentially helps us to build a more robust, trusted ecosystem. In May, non-custodial BitGet wallet also launched the Shop with Crypto. It's a novel in-app marketplace that allows users to spend cryptocurrencies directly on goods and services. Per the blog post, the company's Payify payment finance feature will include functions like namely pay direct, scan to pay, tap to pay is what all the payment options that BitGet Exchange is offering its essentially user base. The team argues that this will increase both crypto adoption and payment efficiency, unlike services that convert crypto into fiat. This one allows crypto native checkouts from within the wallet. In addition, the newly launched in-app shop provides buyers with access to over 300 global brands. The announcement says that this includes essentially digital wallet top-ups and mobile recharges, e-commerce gift cards, gaming, entertainment, and travel. Everything rolled into one. Day by day, we're getting announcements from Ripple this, XRP this, RLUSD this, and so on. And day by day, we're getting announcements of regulations. Now, moving on from that to this, Deutsche Bank. Actually, before we talk about Deutsche Bank, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, as always, which means if you do have a question, comment, anything to make, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. Let's see what's inside the comment section, and we go straight into the next news regarding Deutsche Bank. NFT token crypto bear says, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the CMF Live. Callie says, how the UK know about crypto without the Prime Minister as Keir Starmer? How does the UK want to know about? It's a fair point. I mean, we do have not the most brightest Prime Minister. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Months, even weeks away. Let's go, JP. Facts regarding how close we are to that digital future. Yep, definitely. All facts, not too harsh at all. Life is indeed tough. Let's go, Ray. Absolute facts. Joe says, the Clarity Act sounds really exciting. We're getting closer and closer. Just adoption will be left for the third green light. Let's go, facts. Alex says, hi, Miles and family. Good to see you. Alex, how you doing? How you been? Now, Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank ventures into stablecoins and Bitcoin for retail and cryptocurrencies and so on. Deutsche Bank, essentially one of Europe's largest banks, has launched a new UK-based team to explore stablecoins and Bitcoin and crypto retail offerings as digital assets gain, the majority. This move highlights Deutsche Bank's strict push in crypto, potentially increasing institutional flows into major cryptocurrencies and popular stablecoins. Deutsche Bank has established a digital asset team in the UK aiming to enhance stablecoin offerings and essentially their custody for retail and institutional clients. The bank's expansion to digital assets focuses on innovation in crypto infrastructure. Led by Kriti J, the initiative explores the partnerships to scale crypto's operations efficiently. We have now set up digital assets teams looking at digital custodies, building the infrastructure, and doing a lot of partnerships with peers. It is important to realize that you need these partnerships to be able to scale, said Kriti, managing director at Deutsche Bank. The team focuses on developing essentially robust frameworks to navigate regulatory landscapes in stablecoins and the Bitcoin sector. The move signifies essentially a growing trend among banks to incorporate digital payments and solutions. Institutional essentially interest in crypto is likely to bolster liquidity and engagements in these market spaces as well. And the bank's focus essentially on digital custodianship is poised to influence financial systems, driving regulatory adaptations, and potentially altering financial operations across Europe as crypto assets integrate with traditional banking systems. According to stablecoins to go mainstream in 2025, after US regulatory progress, Deutsche Bank stablecoins are expected to become mainstream by 2025, driven by regulatory clarity and institutional essentially growth. 2025 is all about regulations, institutions, a structured market space, and utility. Deutsche Bank steps reflects a shift essentially in banking sectors towards digital assets, with economic implications grounded in the past trends and regulatory essentially changes, fostering a broader acceptance of cryptocurrencies. Another bank entering the crypto space, and a humongous bank, to be fairly honest, not a small bank in any sort of a way. One of Europe's biggest banks, Deutsche Bank. Now, moving on from that to Ripple. Now, we all talked about when Ripple acquired essentially Hidden Road, and it was a big announcement. Ripple acquiring Hidden Road, they're going to have access to about 300 plus major institutions worldwide, and it's going to essentially, expand the XRP ledger even further and Ripple's network even further, and so on. Well, we have some announcements from, what is the next steps of Hidden Road now that with Ripple. Ripple's Hidden Road opens OTC crypto swaps in the US, over-the-counter. Ripple-backed Hidden Road has officially launched the over-the-counter crypto swaps inside the United States. This big move opens the doors for institutional investors to engage in cash-settled crypto trades, a significant step towards mainstream financial adoption of digital assets. Hidden Roads is now selling crypto, cash for crypto, over-the-counter. With compliance and transparency in focus, Hidden Road's platform now allows clients to swap major cryptocurrencies through fully regulated OTC deals. The initiative aims to provide a seamless trading experience while reducing counterparty risk and increasing concerns in evolving crypto markets. And they're only offering this to institutions. And Hidden Road has a massive reputation in the institutional sector. Unlike spot trading, OTC crypto swaps are private contracts where two parties agree to exchange the cash value of a digital asset at a set future date. No actual crypto changes hands. Instead, the settlement is done in fiat currencies, making it ideal for institutions looking to hedge or gain exposure without touching the underlying asset. Hidden Road's solution Hidden Road's essentially solution targets hedge funds, asset managers, and other institutional players who need reliable, compliant methods to access digital assets. With its US launch, the platform fills a critical gap in the market space, delivering trusted crypto exposure through familiar financial mechanisms. The launch of OTC crypto swaps by Ripple's Hidden Road signifies more than just a product launch. It highlights the ongoing convergence of traditional financial market spaces connecting to the digital world. As more financial institutions explore cryptocurrency investments, the need for sophisticated trading solutions continues to grow. By enabling cash settlements and trades across a wide range of digital assets, Hidden Road is helping institutions bridge the gap, bringing crypto one step closer to mainstream adoption. This is honestly incredible news from Ripple and Hidden Road. Hidden Road opening its doors to essentially selling cryptocurrencies to institutions, but then the institutions don't really get to hold the crypto assets, which is technically a ETF version they're buying from Hidden Road. Not an actual ETF, but you could say similar par on par as an ETF, where they don't get to hold the asset in any sort of a way. But this is an incredible push, essentially, from Hidden Road. Incredible moves by Ripple. It's definitely going to expand it even a lot more. And it does show how much Ripple is pushing itself further and further into the essentially corporate sector, which is where it needs to be at. And honestly, amazing news. Now, also on top of that, in the past few days, we've talked about the announcements from Ripple, XRP. They're just ripping. I mean, there's news coming out left, right, and center about Ripple's movements and XRP's movements and RLUSD's movements, and the partnerships. And essentially, just 2 days ago was about the Dubai family. Yesterday was essentially regarding the Saudi family that's investing into XRP Ledger. I mean, it's just piling on. Today, we have Weebus. If you're wondering to yourself, what the hell is Weebus? Well, Weebus backs XRP in a $300 million global payments push. Essentially, Hangzhou-based Weebus International Limited, a firm popular with delivering high-end AI-powered chauffeur essentially services, is now integrating XRP for global payments. It has made 2 significant announcements to expand its international travel services. One of the critical components of this initiative is making use of XRP, an international digital currency aimed at accelerating low-cost global payments. Weebus is first venturing into a funding strategy as much as $300 million. This money will be raised from non-equity sources such as bank loans, shareholder guarantees, and institutional credit, so it would not essentially decrease their shares held by existing essentially investor value, something that MSTR does. The primary reason for this funding is to fund Weebus's utilization of XRP in global payment solutions. Through the establishment of an XRP reserve, Weebus aims to facilitate international payments faster and lower cost for both itself and for its customers. The funds will also enable the company to create blockchain-based solutions, such as digital wallets. The company is also going to build digital wallets, Web3 reward tokens, and reservation systems stored safely on the blockchain. These are some of the steps taken by Weebus in its larger goal to go global and introduce modern technology in the travel sector. Second, the company has re-upped its China-wide alliance with Tongcheng Travel. If you're wondering, where is this company from? Who is backing this Weebus company? China is the one behind this company. So 2 days ago, just to point this out, 2 days ago, we had the UAE choose the XRP ledger because it's fast, transparent, and reliable, and cheap for tokenization of real estate in the UAE. Yesterday, we had the Saudi family investing into XRP through Vivo Power because they saw that as the best option, XRP payments. Today, we have Chinese company backed essentially by China saying XRP is definitely the best choice. The second company has re-upped essentially China-wide alliance with Tongcheng Travel, one of China's largest travel platforms with more than 240 million people paying users annually. The alliance will roll out their co-branded services, WeTour Tongcheng, nationally across China. 240 million people use this in China, and now they're going to be using it on the XRP ledger soon, very soon actually, by the looks of it. It brings Weebus's luxury chauffeurs and services together with Tongcheng's vast user base and robust transportation data to enhance travel choices. Travelers can look forward to smoother intercity journeys and improved first and last mile connections. Weebus's CEO, Nan Zhang, described how the combination of these 2 breakthroughs will enable Weebus to provide high-quality travel experiences within and outside China. As the partnership with Tongcheng deepens the company's hold in the Chinese market space, the XRP plan brings new opportunities for overseas travels by eliminating payment lags and enabling instant refunds on the XRP ledger. So, 2 days ago, UAE announces XRP for tokenization of properties. Yesterday, Saudi Arabian family members essentially, through Vivo Power, choose XRP for payments. Today, Chinese, essentially, a Chinese company backed by China, travel company, essentially massive travel company for luxury chauffeurs, for chauffeurs in general, or for traveling essentially within China. 240 million customers, they've chosen XRP for their backbone of their payment system. It's ironic because for the longest time, all I've been hearing from the Bitcoin maxis is that Bitcoin is the one that's going to be used for everything. I'm not taking a dig at Bitcoin in any sort of way, but I am taking a dig at those people that said essentially Bitcoin is for everything. Bitcoin is for tokenization, for payments, for store of value, for AI, for gaming, is what essentially Bitcoin maxis will tell people. But the reality of it is, just with these 3 past days, it's not really, is it? Because if it was, the UAE would have probably chosen Bitcoin for tokenization, but they didn't. Saudi Arabian royal family would have chosen Bitcoin for Vivo Power, but they didn't. To back their stocks. This massive Chinese company would have chosen Bitcoin to back their 240 million customer base, but they didn't. They chose XRP. Seems like the future isn't a Bitcoin only. Also, on that note, we have also come to the endings of tonight's live. That was the last news on tonight's live. And on tonight's live, we talked about another amazing partnership coming out of China this time for XRP. We talked about tonight's live regarding essentially Ripple's Hidden Road Open plans for OTC, getting involved inside the institutional sector. Another amazing news for Ripple. We talked about essentially Deutsche Bank getting involved in cryptocurrencies. We also went through news regarding BitGet listing RLUSD and making such a big announcement about their listing RLUSD on their exchange and putting RLUSD on BitGet's roadmap. We also talked about essentially the Clarity Act of 2025, which we always wanted, an all-in-one crypto regulation act somehow passing. And we're getting that finally. We also talked about essentially on tonight's live regarding the Ondo essentially finance tokenizing US stocks, making a 24/7 market space, which is incredible. We also talked about tonight's live regarding the US SEC looking for outside point of view on their regulations. We talked about Santander Bank essentially exploring stablecoins and retail crypto services. We also talked about on tonight's live regarding Kazakhstan launching some sort of a crypto city. We went through news regarding former PayPal CEO talking about his bullet points on how he sees the future of digital finance. We also talked about tonight's live regarding the matters of James's bullish outlooks and alternative, essentially ETFs happening inside the crypto sector. And we talked about the US government's essentially how much the cryptocurrencies they've seized according to the Washington Post, and the US courts trying to overturn Donald Trump's tariff plans. But it didn't work. So that was essentially the last news on tonight's live. If you're honestly watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. CMF stands for Crypto Mass Family. My name is Miles, and this live airs Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. onwards, London time. However, this live is going to continue 15th of June onwards instead of continuing tomorrow as I normally do Monday to Friday, because I'm flying out to the Spanish islands essentially not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but tomorrow's a lot of preparations and packings and so on. That's why the live show is cancelled, and then this live show will continue June 15th when I come back from the Spanish islands back to London. So sorry about that, everyone. However, I am always, as always, available if you want to message me, if you want to call me, if you have any issues, if you want to discuss something. As always, CMF members, you can contact me completely for free, and even call me for free as well. Just let me know before you do call me. And yeah, honestly, I will see you all June 15th. When I do come back. But obviously I'll be speaking inside a Telegram group as well. I'll be seeing the CMF members inside a Telegram. If you haven't followed me, follow me. If you haven't subscribed to me, watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching this on X, follow me as well. Like, comment, share, retweet. Before I obviously do go, let's go inside the comment section as well. I'm sorry I'm ending the live show a bit early today. However, even though I am ending the live show a bit early today, we still had some incredible news announcements we went through on tonight's live. Incredible news announcements. And also look out for my X tweets as well. I'm going to be tweeting out a lot of things as well, posting a lot of things. Night Miles and CMF, Pablo C tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good evening, Miles and family. Suze, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been, Susie? Ending, did you start early? I didn't know. It's just, we just come to an ending. Night, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, brothers. See you on June 15th, same time as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you on June 15th, or inside Telegram group as well. Ray, all see you inside Telegram group as well. Ending, good night, Miles and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Have a great time on your holiday. Well deserved. Let's go, JP. See you when I come back. Mike, good day, Miles of CMF. Have a great holiday and see you soon. Let's go, Mike. See you soon as well. Miles, there are so many good news and bullish news on XRP, but the price has not moved yet. It will. And when it does, there's no stopping it. Trust me. Good night, Miles and CMF. Enjoy your vacation, Miles. See you mid-June. See you mid-June as well. Free and forever. We will miss you, Miles. I've found this time away. Denise, thanks so much for the kind words and see you soon as well. Anyway, good night, Miles, and have a great holiday. Thank you so much, my dear brother. See you soon. Safe travels, brother. Let's go, Ray. Thank you so much, brother. See you soon as well. Miles, enjoy swimming in the sea, fishing. We will miss you. Susie, see you when I come back as well. Miles, have a great holiday, mate, and a bit of an R&R, and see you when you get back. Addy, let's go, and see you when I get back as well. Enjoy your holiday, Miles. Thank you so much, Crypto Dawn. See you when I get back as well. Genos, managed to catch the live. Hi all, and see you later. Genos, see you when I come back as well. And thanks, Legend. So much bullish news. We can't be far away from the takeoff. 19 days CMF. Facts, absolutely true. We are not that far off. Facts, what Shelly said as well. Shelly, see you when I get back here as well. Have a great break, Miles. You deserve it, brother. Thank you so much, Jason, for the kind words. And see you when I come back as well. Thanks, Miles. Have a great trip. Good night, CMF. Good night, Orphan. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you when I get back as well. I will see everybody when I get back. Obviously, as I said, if you do have any questions or need help, I'm always here to help. You can message me and call me completely for free. Just let me know before you do call me. But you can message and call me for free as always. CMF members or anybody else that's decided to follow me as well on social media, on X and YouTube. And, if you want, you can join the CMF as well. It's completely free if you already haven't. It's free for life. Have a blast, Miles. Well deserved. Let's go, Pablo. See you when I get back as well. Safe travels. Enjoy yourself. Let's go, Alex. And see you when I get back. I will see everybody when I get back June 15th for the next episode of CMF Live. Episode 319 of the CMF Live will air after June 15th or on June 15th. Let's see. See everybody. Miss you all. Love you all. See you then. And see the CMF inside Telegram group and message and call me if you need help. Have a great trip, Miles. Let's go, Pisces. Thank you so much. See you, everybody.